All right, here we go. This week on Let's Talk Texas, the governor announces a new initiative to help small businesses as the coronavirus response continues. Bernie Sanders has dropped out of the race, leaving Joe Biden as the only Democrat standing in the race for president. And we'll review the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision to restrict abortions during this pandemic.
This is the issue of this election.
Texas isn't great just by chance.
When you overtax, overregulate, and overlitigate, guess what? They're going to look for places to go.
The classic question in politics: are you better off now than you were 2 years ago? It's Texas.
We will never give up Texas! If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
All right, welcome to Let's Talk Texas. I'm your host, Jordan Overturf, joined by my co-host, RPT Chairman James Dickey. Chairman, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing great. Happily quarantining and staying away from folks, social distancing, doing the right stuff.
Catching up on Tiger King and all those things. I know you are. You're trying to keep it hidden. We know you are, Chip. We got a lot to talk about on this week's show. Sanders finally throwing in the towel.
Yep. Again.
Everything that's going on crazy on that side of things. Who knew, campaigns and politics were still going on at this time. And also the huge news for the pro-life movement during this crisis.
Yep.
We'll get into that in a minute, but first we got a couple of shout-outs, don't we, Chairman?
We absolutely do. First of all, the National Committee man, Dr. Robin Armstrong, for taking the fight directly to the coronavirus despite heavy media criticism, and to our Republican leaders who continue to fight for coronavirus relief. We got great people doing the right thing for the right reasons in the right ways.
Yeah, I actually did an interview for the Big Texas podcast earlier today, talking to a candidate in HD 105 who runs a nonprofit, and he's been working hard to provide Texans in the Irving area with food, talking about the food necessities and things like that. Amazing to see all the stories across the state and across the nation for people who are pouring their heart out. And the adventures of Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if you're following any of those. The Banditos. Have you seen this promo?
I have not.
So he's got this deal where he is encouraging all the banditos out there to make their own face mask from a bandana. If you haven't seen the promo, I recommend it. It is classic McConaughey entertainment. But there's been a lot of crazy stuff with this too, like the number of scams. Have you seen the reporting on the scams and things like that going on?
Yeah, it's really a shame. Every time something like this happens, sadly, it shows great character as people step up to help each other. I mean, as you were saying, Matthew McConaughey, he and his wife were delivering masks and delivering food to first responders. And then you have scammers who are trying to take advantage of the confusion and stress and concern about people to give them ways to take advantage of people. It's really sad.
Yeah, and if you know about these scams, that you can report them either. I know the FBI is following this stuff, Attorney General Ken Paxton's office. So there are a lot of resources out there. Make sure if you come across one of these, let your friends and family know, but also let the authorities know. They're doing a lot of work to track this stuff down. But we also have some good news, light at the end of this tunnel, as the president likes to say. State convention registration is opening up, right?
Absolutely. We've had so much great news on the convention over the last week, but the best news is you've probably seen a couple of emails come by. We're encouraging people to become a grassroots member now at any annual level or at the monthly goal level. Any one of those, if you're a member at any one of those levels, you will have preferred early access to register for our state convention. Now, a lot of people don't even know for sure yet if you'll be delegates or alternate delegates to the state convention, because a lot of those Senate district and county conventions haven't even happened yet. But you know what? Odds are, if you are determined and you want to, and you're in the loop enough to know about the convention, be prepared for it, go ahead. I encourage you, go ahead and use the reservation, sign up as a prospective delegate or alternate, hoping you'll be elected delegate or alternate. And if you are a Grassroots Club member at those levels, you'll get first access for registering for our rooms, which is really important because since we moved the dates of the convention, there aren't as many of the best rooms available.
Yeah, and as we do get these messages of hope from state and federal leaders, hotel rooms, I got a feeling, are going to be hard to come by the farther we get from this. So, great reminder to get it out there and do that. So, speaking of all this good news that we're hearing recently, Governor Abbott held a press conference today to announce a new initiative to help small businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Governor Abbott was joined by the president and CEO of Goldman Sachs, plus president and CEO of Lyft Fund, and owner of Smokey John's Barbecue, and a bunch of other folks. And it was a great chance to announce that Goldman Sachs with Lyft Fund and others are partnering to provide $50 million in loans to small businesses in Texas that have been affected by the COVID. Goldman Sachs is providing the capital for this as part of their $550 million commitment to COVID relief. It is part of their 10,000 small businesses program. The Lyft Fund and other folks will administer the funding to qualified small businesses. Business owners can find out more by visiting their website at lyftfund.com.
Yeah, and I don't know if people caught this, but during the press conference, the rep from Goldman said that some of these businesses will be able to get these loans and they will be forgivable if they meet certain conditions. Correct?
Right, yes. It's related to the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, that's being administered by the Small Business Administration. Those that go primarily towards payroll so that employees can continue to receive paychecks. Small businesses that do this can be wholly or partially forgiven for those loans, including wholly forgiven if they meet all the stipulations. And basically it's just our elected officials recognizing that small businesses is a backbone of the Texas economy, and they needed a way. This is not like TARP. This is not like prior situations where businesses were suffering because of their own actions, right? I mean, this is not like the banking scandal from a decade ago. These are small businesses suffering for no fault of their own, nothing they did. To the contrary, government is asking people to shut down. And so this program, the Paycheck Protection Program, is a way to protect those jobs and those businesses, because we're going to need both those businesses and those employees as soon as we're able to fire back up.
Yeah, and I know folks are anxious to begin those efforts. So we look forward to hearing more from the governor on that. And he gave us, last week a little bit of a teaser, and then again during the press conference today, giving some numbers and offering some good news, but also, plenty of red flags still out there. So can you tell us a little bit more about the governor's update in terms of where Texas is in the response?
Yes, and he talked about them that way, as glimmers of hope, but with a bunch of red flags attached. First of all, as of last night, over 133,000 Texans have been tested, and there have been 14,000 positive cases, 13,906, and 1,176 current hospitalizations. 286 deaths, and obviously every one of those losses is tragic, but we've had 2,269 recoveries. And so what this, especially with numbers across the U.S., is starting to show, it's the lowest number of Americans testing positive in a week. So it does appear the curve is starting to flatten. And also even in Texas, we had really the lowest number we had tested positive. But here's some red flags. First of all, Sunday is always the lowest day of the week, right, for people to test positive, because people don't like dealing with it on Sunday, don't like getting results back on Sunday. So It's still good. That's the second lowest number we've had since late March. It's good news for us if it holds up because we are headed in the right direction. I did check, and the number of deaths, everyone is tragic, but it is less than the models had been expecting, even as of the data just a couple of days earlier. I think this could be really, really good news, indicating we're headed in the right direction. And certainly we've had great leadership from Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, all of our Republican elected officials. But it is still a little too early to know for sure if we are out of the woods. But lowest number hospitalized in a week in a long time, lowest number of deaths, much lower deaths than we had expected. So, we are on the other hand the second highest state in the nation in terms of number of recoveries. Now, the big thing we need to do is get more personal protective equipment, so more PPE. We've received more than nearly 4.5 million masks, 4,459,000 masks, over 175,000 face shields, more than 2.5 million pairs of gloves, more than 11,000 gowns. So there's a lot of equipment has been shipped, and our ability to deliver that equipment and to get that equipment when we need it has continued to increase, and that's really the important thing.
Yeah, and the governor's response has to be applauded in this because we're a month out from when he first issued the disaster declaration, and that has been extended.
Yep.
But these initial signs that the curve may be flattening, only a month out, I think, is a positive indication that his leadership is taking us in the right direction. But we also know that people are struggling at this time. During the press conference earlier, it was noted that right of way, they noted that of that $50 million, all of it was going active. Applications are being accepted now. Website already flooded with people trying to find out, get more information, apply, and the same is going on over at the Texas Workforce Commission and what they're dealing with at this time. Can you talk a little bit about the massive increase and what the state is doing to respond to those requests at this time?
Absolutely. I mean, there is a record number of Texans who've had to apply for unemployment benefits. I've talked to senators whose staff are volunteering. The Texas Workforce Commission is working 7 days a week to process these unemployment claims. Just Friday alone, less than 400,000 claims had been processed, and yet as of today, Monday, there's over 1.1 million claims have been processed. So that they've been jamming over Easter weekend. They were working. The total payout so far is over $400 million. This is a difficult enough time for Texans. We don't like to see any Texan lose their job, and we need, we're proud of the incredible work that the Workforce Commission and that everybody continues to put in to ensure that Texans are taken care of during this time. The governor is working on a plan to deliberately reopen the Texas economy safely, slowly, appropriately, based on the types of businesses, types of interactions, or locations. He's in constant communication with the White House, and the president is consistently having an open discussion with governors like our Governor Abbott to determine what's best for each state. Because, Republicans know nobody understands the needs of each state or community better than that state or community.
Yeah, and you watch these responses from New York mostly because that's where the biggest hotspot is and the most conversation about differing tactics. And I don't know if it's comparing apples to oranges at this point, but certainly Texas is taking a different direction and been very proactive. As soon as opportunities have come up, the governor has gotten rid of regulations or suspended them, created all these great opportunities for businesses to try and keep going, keep employees working. And so I don't know how you could look at this and not see the amount of effort that is being put in by so many people. And that especially goes for our school districts that are trying to figure out how to continue to educate our kids. Do we have any clarity on whether or not they're going to reopen? Where do we stand in terms of schools here in Texas?
Yeah, during the press conference, Governor had a reporter asked about exactly that, and the governor said that he'd have an announcement later this week. You know, the governor, I think, he's clearly thinking about all of these things, and he made it clear since the beginning, you know, his priority is health and safety above everything else. And so we know schools are not going to be reopening anytime soon. It's not going to be a light switch. It's going to be a gradual thing. We'll see how it goes, but the governor's going to take it carefully.
Well, I know everyone's sitting around watching their Twitter feeds, just see what the latest news is, what the biggest update is, and I don't think there was any bigger news than the announcement that Bernie Sanders has finally flamed out in the race for president. They tried in earnest to keep it going, but obviously it's a real tough time for campaigns right now. What do you make of Joe Biden being the last man standing after nearly flaming out himself early on in this contest?
Well, I think once again we saw just how determined the Democrat establishment was to make sure Bernie Sanders was not their nominee. They went all in, and the irony is, even though they did it and they were successful in stopping Bernie as being their official nominee, they were not able to stop Bernie and the radical left from taking over the Democrat Party. To win, Biden adopted almost every bit of Bernie's radical ideas. I mean, he adopted raising middle class taxes. He said the very first thing he would do is eliminate the president's historic tax cuts, which are going to mean a big rate increase, a big tax increase on the middle class. He endorsed a radical immigration system that includes open borders and taxpayers paying for health care for illegal immigrants. He endorsed government-run health care that would knock 200 million Americans off private insurance. He endorsed the climate agenda that would decimate the economy. I mean, he endorsed a Green New Deal. And I mean, it just really could not have been more extreme, including federal funds for abortion after the repeal of the Hyde Amendment, free college tuition, federal assault weapons ban. I mean, you name it. Bernie Sanders is only not the nominee in name. Biden had to adopt pretty much all the extreme positions of Bernie in order to get that nomination. And yet, he's done all of that, and he's a career politician who spent 5 decades in Washington. So I still am very confident that President Trump will win in November because he's really disrupted Washington, and he's delivered a record of results, and he's led a bold response to this coronavirus pandemic. So, in fact, a recent Politico poll showed that the American people believe President Trump is a better leader during this coronavirus pandemic than Biden would be. And so I think it's just yet another reminder that President Trump really is the right man for the job and will get elected. And to make sure that happens, the Trump campaign, the RNC, have been working really hard to win, not just for the president, but all the way down the ballot. Trump Victories trained and activated over 800,000 volunteers across country, and then have made over 15 million voter contacts, have really improved the ground game and made sure it was data driven. And then the minute this pandemic hit and we couldn't be talking to people live and in person, immediately pivoted to virtual and digital campaign tools, including virtual trainings and online programming of events. And the effort is just unmatched by the DNC and the Biden campaign.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of anything worth talking about in terms of what the Democrats are doing in their response. Certainly locally, we see folks doing their part to help out in their communities, but on the national level, we've seen things get messed up in terms of getting the CARES Act put together and passed in a timely fashion. You've got Senate Democrats blocking a $250 billion program put together by Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans to help small businesses. But fortunately, the public-private partnerships that have made this country be able to grow, especially under President Trump's leadership, has created the model of success that we want to see repeated. And with Biden, it feels like we're just getting, Hillary 2.0. Here's another person in the Obama cabinet who didn't really contribute much, but is claiming, victory over all of those policies while trying to cling to those, whatever, Bernie's doing. And if it's not extreme enough for Bernie, then, here comes Beto with his gun confiscation plan.
That's right.
And so Biden is just attaching himself to any idea he can possibly find in order to see his path to victory. But do you think that works here in Texas? Is there a path to victory for Biden over Trump in Texas?
I just don't see it. I don't see his insanely far left platform resonating with Texans. As I've traveled around the state before all this came up, and as I've talked to people around the state since it is, I've heard from countless Texans who said that they're really taken aback by how far left the Democrats have gone, and Biden's right there at the lead of it. So, they're the party of big government. They're going to seize every opportunity. They're not going to let a good crisis go to waste. In the meantime, the president is doing a great job. He's showing that he cares for everyday Americans, everyday Texans. And I am confident that people will see what a great job he's doing leading us through this unprecedented challenge in spite of ridiculous media bias and outrage.
Yeah, and to that end, while a lot of Republican leaders are standing up and trying to do what's right by their constituents and provide them the services they need, Democrats are going to the courts, of all places, to try and overturn everything that we have worked so hard to build. And fortunately, they failed in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, as they decided to uphold that important restriction on abortions in Texas during the coronavirus pandemic. I mean, what do you think this says when we are distracting ourselves with an issue like this when Texans are having food insecurity, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how warped the Democrat priorities are. Governor Abbott issued an executive order and said, hey, look, we are all in on fighting this pandemic. We need to be sure we have all the resources we need for that. So all available medical and PPE supplies go to those on the front lines of coronavirus pandemic, right? No non-essential medical procedures, including abortion. And so that's a win for life. And, the original order didn't specify, what were essential or non-essential, but Attorney General Ken Paxton said, yes, he would prosecute providers who continued providing elective treatments, including abortion, elective procedures. And there was a U.S. district judge that blocked it. Then the Fifth Circuit did uphold the order. So the only exception the Fifth Circuit did in a divided decision was said, well, if a pregnancy is right near the end, so the delaying would make it, it would then no longer be legal to do the abortion, then in that case, the abortion could still happen. But other than that, it's an elective procedure not to be treated differently than any other elective procedure, and we're not going to use up crucial medical materials for those elective procedures.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll see some data on this as we look down the road at the response and how different areas were affected. But Yeah, for the Attorney General to make clear on how he will enforce the order seems a bit tenuous a claim to take and challenge the order itself. Um, and that's well beyond my expertise. But as far as the political and communication side of things, something I understand greatly, we see Democrats pushing back against this, pushing back against, voter integrity. Uh, what do you make of this kind of haphazard response that has nothing to do with what Texans really need at this time?
Yeah, I mean, it shows how warped the Democrat priorities are that, in a stimulus bill, they try to pump in mail in ballots. And in a response to coronavirus, they want to be sure that they've got unfettered abortion access. And sadly, it's not a surprise that Democrats think it's better to have, and more important, to have the right to end the life of an unborn child than it is to protect the lives of millions of Texans and flatten the curve. And nominees and elected officials on the Democrat side have shown that they are all in for this. And one of the ones who stood up and just blindly supported this really warped perspective was MJ Hager, who's running for Senate in the primary against Royce West. And sadly, it shows the kind of really anti-leadership that we would expect from her. We would have every reason to see from her. And it's so important that, as opposed to what the Democrats are doing, that we all pull together and emerge from this pandemic protecting all lives. And so, my question to Democrats who are pushing for this to be rolled back is it really more important to end the lives of unborn children than it is to protect the lives of Texans? And I think their answer will speak volumes.
Yeah, and as we watch this heading to the Supreme Court, do you think they're going to uphold this executive order? And are there any implications of what happens to this if it doesn't even come up in the Supreme Court by the time this order is lifted?
Well, I'm confident the Supreme Court will see the need to defend lives during this time and ensure that all available resources are given to our healthcare professionals. We are so grateful for the incredible justice choices made by President Trump and Justice Gorsuch, Justice Kavanaugh. That we have good jurists on the Supreme Court. I am very optimistic that they will do the right thing.
Excellent. Well, that's all we've got for today. Next week, we'll be talking about the latest on the coronavirus aid package, as well as updates on the governor and his plans to get Texas's economy reopened, get these businesses rolling again. Chairman, before we go, any new binge suggestions on the Flicks or Amazon? What are you watching these days?
Actually, I'm looking forward to trying out the new. Amazon Prime's got a new series out based on Agatha Christie books. I used to really enjoy the Agatha Christie books growing up, so I'm looking forward to that. And stars Rufus Sewell, who is a great actor. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, Hulu and FX, I think, is getting ready to launch that Mrs. America series on Phyllis Schlafly in the battle against the ERA.
Oh, nice.
Kate Blanchett. Very much looking forward to that. The teasers for that show have been amazing. I always love a political drama to keep things going during these times. Chairman, as always, I appreciate it. We appreciate our listeners. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Talk Texas. Let's Talk Texas. I do know the name of the show. I promise, Chairman. You can follow the Chairman, James Dickey, on Twitter at James Dickey. And for the latest on how we are going to keep Texas red, follow the Republican Party of Texas on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.